three people in my family who matter to this story. My father, Richard Ditt, 68 years. Old, retired insurance executive who measures success in country club memberships and the weight of a watch on his wrist. My brother, Gregory, 41. Hedge fund manager who made his first million by 30 and his first enemy by 31, me, though he's never quite figured that out. And my sister Nicole, 37, corporate attorney, married to a man whose last name opens doors at restaurants. I could requisition if I wanted to, but never do. Together, they form a perfect triangle of assumptions about my life, each point reinforcing the others, creating a geometry of condescension so complete it's almost architectural. My name is Shayna Ditt. I hold the rank of colonel in the United States Army, and I'm the installation commander of Fort Bragg, overseeing one of the most significant military bases on the planet. They believe my job involves shuffling papers in some forgotten office. The gift certificate I prepared didn't require a single dollar from my pocket. That's what you need to grasp first. Fort Bragg's Officers Club operates outside conventional reservation systems when it comes to the exclusive private dining spaces, and you certainly won't find their gift certificates at any checkout counter. The item resting in my palm, pristine cardstock nestled in leather bearing the installation's official emblem, held value that transcended any monetary figure. It symbolized entry into a realm my family's wealth couldn't purchase, regardless of Gregory's hedge fund prowess or Nicole's billable hour accumulation. 3 weeks prior, I'd instructed my aide to prepare the documentation. Perpetual access to Fort Bragg Officers Club, encompassing every private dining space and exclusive gathering. Authority to extend privileges to direct family members at the installation commander's judgment. Authenticated by Colonel Shayna Ditt, Installation Commander. My executed signature graced the bottom, validated by the club director's counter-signature. My father would unwrap this during his Father's Day celebration, encircled by family and individuals who quantified their self-worth through designer labels and second homes. His initial reaction would be dismissive, categorizing it as utilitarian and therefore beneath consideration. Then, inevitably, someone at that table would comprehend its actual significance. My strategy was positioned perfectly. Father's Day would reveal everything. By age 12, I'd mastered the art of fading into the background within my own household. It wasn't deliberate cruelty, more an unconscious oversight that accompanies being the middle child who doesn't conform to established patterns. Gregory embodied the family's golden achievement, mathematically brilliant, Wall Street bound from the instant he grasped compound interest mechanics. Nicole arrived as the cherished youngest, naturally charismatic and argumentative, seemingly designed for courtroom combat. Then there was me, consistent, dependable, proficient at instruction adherence. Shayna will manage fine. My mother would respond when acquaintances inquired about my prospects. She possesses excellent organizational abilities. Her life ended when I reached 19. An aggressive cancer consumed her within half a year. My father remarried before 24 months elapsed, choosing Patricia, an agreeable woman demonstrating zero interest in adult stepchildren. Family occasions persisted, minus the singular person who might have truly perceived me. I enlisted in ROTC during my college sophomore year. My father scrawled his approval on the enrollment documents with minimal attention, already mentally departed for his tea time. Military experience enhances any curriculum vitae, he commented. Complete your obligatory 4 years, then transition to legitimate career opportunities. I fulfilled those 4 years, then added 8 additional, followed by 12 more. Approximately year 15, upon achieving lieutenant colonel, I abandoned explanation attempts. My father's response devolved to polite acknowledgement before immediately pivoting conversation toward Gregory's recent acquisition or Nicole's partnership. Advancement. Now at 43, I commanded 52,000 military and civilian personnel across an installation, spanning 160,000 acres. My budgetary oversight dwarfed Gregory's hedge fund operations. I conducted briefings for generals and congressional representatives. The Secretary of the Army recognized my name instantly. My father remained convinced I processed paperwork. This pattern had solidified across decades, hardening into something more concrete than mere fact. Christmas gatherings, Thanksgiving dinners, Easter celebrations, Father's Day brunches. The narrative remained unchanging. Gregory would materialize driving whichever luxury automobile currently occupied his garage, dressed in garments exceeding a junior enlisted soldier's entire monthly compensation. Nicole would arrive alongside her husband Preston and their impeccably presented children, sharing narratives about vacation properties and elite educational institutions. I'd appear in my sensible Ford Explorer wearing department store business attire, responding to identical inquiries I'd addressed for 2 decades. Still pursuing military service, Shayna? Some aunt or distant cousin would inquire, voice brightened with pity reserved for individuals perceived as professionally adrift. Affirmative, continuing to serve. How admirable. What's your current station? North Carolina? Interesting, performing. What duties specifically? Administrative functions, logistical coordination, standard operations. They'd nod approvingly, their preconceptions validated. Military service carried honorable connotations, certainly, but lacked prestige comparable to Gregory's financial sector position or Nicole's legal firm partnership. My continued service at 43 suggested probable inadequacy for private sector competition. The military represented a safety net, an environment for individuals prioritizing security over ambitious advancement. I permitted these assumptions. Correction would necessitate explanations I had no desire to provide and which would meet disbelief regardless. Previous Thanksgiving, Gregory had isolated me within my father's study, Scotch tumbler in hand, wearing his concerned sibling expression. Shayna, I've developed a concept. I could likely secure an interview opportunity with one of our affiliated firms. Administrative capacity, perhaps corporate relations coordinator. Compensation would exceed military standards and you'd finally possess genuine upward career trajectory. My current position satisfies me. Does it genuinely, though? Consider your situation objectively. 43 years old and still receiving directives from superiors. Don't you desire actual authority over something meaningful? I'd smiled, sampled my own beverage, maintained silence. What response existed? Should I reveal that my daily command exceeded every person he'd supervised throughout his entire professional existence? That my administrative responsibilities encompassed coordinating training operations for multiple Army divisions? That my issued orders mobilized thousands of soldiers simultaneously? He'd reject such claims entirely. The cognitive contradiction would prove insurmountable. Therefore, I smiled, redirected discussion topics, and he rejoined the gathering, satisfied he delivered valuable career guidance to his floundering sister. Father's Day arrived on Sunday. This particular year necessitating brunch at the Waterford, the establishment variety where pricing remains unprinted and wine selections require sommelier interpretation. My father's selection, naturally. He'd secured reservations months previously, designated the private space overlooking the golf course, ensured every relevant observer would witness the celebration surrounded by his accomplished family. I materialized precisely on schedule. Military punctuality becomes unbreakable habit. The private room was already populating with family members upon my entrance. Gregory commanded attention near the windows, gesturing dramatically while explaining his latest investment approach. Nicole and Preston were displaying photographs from their children's spring Martha's Vineyard vacation. My father occupied the head position, presiding over his assembled court, a monarch surveying his domain. Shayna, he identified me immediately, gesturing me forward. We'd nearly concluded you'd become directionally confused. Apologies, Dad. Interstate. 95 traffic complications. Understandable, certainly. Please sit. Gregory was just sharing this remarkable emerging markets opportunity. I assumed my designated seat. Table center, neither sufficiently proximate to suggest importance nor adequately distant for exclusion. The precise position I'd occupied 3 decades. Brunch progressed through predictable progressions. Mimosas and Bloody Marys arrived, artistically composed fruit arrangements, eggs Benedict probably costing more than my weekly grocery expenditure. Conversation flowed around my presence like water circumventing stone. Market trend analysis. Legal case discussions, vacation itinerary planning, private school tuition shock, and horror. I consumed food, smiled appropriately, responded when directly addressed. Internally, I was calculating toward the gift presentation moment. It materialized. Following dessert as servers removed plates and replenished coffee. My father reclined in his chair, expansive from excellent cuisine and superior wine, prepared to receive his children's prepared tributes. Well then, he announced, I believe certain presents await opening. Gregory proceeded initially, naturally. He produced a leather portfolio embossed with golf club insignia, presented with theatrical flair. Dad, I'm aware you've discussed wanting increased golf opportunities. This represents full Pinehurst Resort membership. Unlimited tea time access, all 8-course availability, clubhouse privileges. Comprehensive benefits. My father's expression illuminated like holiday morning. Gregory, this exceeds reasonable expectations. This must have cost considerable. Don't concern yourself with expenditure. You raised me to value quality appropriately. He directed a glance toward me, presumably intended meaningfully. Certain investments justify their cost. My father examined the membership documentation, vocalizing amenity descriptions, prestige factors, exclusivity elements. Around the table, relatives generated impressed responses, appropriately appreciative. Of the gifts, MAGNIFC Nicole proceeded next, producing a slim container bearing unmistakable Tiffany blue. Dad, I know you appreciate fine timepieces. This is from Preston and myself. He opened it, revealing a watch probably valued equivalent to a new automobile. Rose gold construction, leather band, the timepiece variety that broadcasts wealth without verbal announcement. Nicole, this is exquisite. Truly, you two exceeded necessity. You deserve recognition, Preston stated smoothly. A man of your accomplishments should possess something reflecting that success. Additional appreciative murmurs circulated. My father positioned the watch on his wrist, admired its light reflection, displayed it around the table like a trophy. I reached into my bag, extracted the leather folder containing my gift card. Fort Bragg's embossed seal contrasted sharply against the cream leather. Militarily precise and understated. Happy Father's Day. Dad, he accepted the folder, set aside the Tiffany box, opened it with polite interest typically reserved for anticipated disappointments. I observed his eyes scanning the card, watched his expression transition from anticipation through confusion toward something uncomfortably resembling condescension, a restaurant gift certificate. He glanced upward toward me, smile fixed artificially. How practical. He set it aside without additional comment, his attention immediately returning toward Nicole's watch contribution, Gregory's golf membership, the gifts aligning with his success. Comprehension. Nicole captured my gaze across the table, her expression sympathetic in ways worse than mockery would be. Poor Shayna, her face communicated. She attempts so earnestly, conversation advanced. Pinehurst golf outing coordination. Discussions regarding appropriate occasions for the new watch. My gift sat abandoned at table's corner, leather folder closed. Dismissed as thoroughly as if I presented a discount store gift card, I remained motionless. Hands folded in my lap, waiting. 7 minutes elapsed. A waiter approached the table, his posture unnaturally rigid, his face drained of color. He appeared young, approximately 25, wearing the Waterford service staff's black vest and bow tie. But something about his bearing, the way he carried himself, the military precision of his approach marked him as more than just a waiter. Excuse me? Sir, he addressed my father, voice tight with something that might have been nerves or might have been suppressed anger. I apologize for interrupting. My father looked up mildly annoyed at the disruption. Yes, what is it? The waiter picked up the leather folder, held it with both hands like it might explode. This gift card, sir? The one your daughter gave you. What? About it? Sir, this is... He stopped, took a breath, started again with the kind of forced calm that comes from years of military discipline. Sir, that's Fort Bragg's Officers Club. Only senior command staff and their guests. Your daughter's signature grants you lifetime access. The silence that followed was absolute. My father stared at the waiter. What? The Officers Club at Fort Bragg, sir. It's not a restaurant, it's a military facility. This card, he opened it, showed my father the embossed seal, the official language, my signature at the bottom. This grants you permanent access to one of the most exclusive military facilities on the East Coast. The private dining rooms, the special events, everything. Only installation commanders can authorize this kind of access. Gregory's scotch glass stopped halfway to his mouth. Installation commander. My father's voice cracked slightly. What's an installation commander? The waiter, and I could see it now. The haircut, the posture, the way he held himself, fixed my father with a look that was just shy of insubordinate. The base commander, sir, the person who runs the entire installation. Fort Bragg is one of the largest military bases in the world. The commander oversees 50,000 personnel and 160,000 acres. That's Nicole started then stopped, her legal brain doing the math. Your daughter, sir. The waiter's voice carried across the suddenly silent room. Colonel. She's the installation commander at Fort Bragg, has been for 8 months. My father's hand had gone to his throat, fingers touching the expensive watch, like it might offer some explanation for what he was hearing. Gregory found his voice first. That's not possible. Shayna does administrative work. She Colonel Dick commands Fort Bragg. The waiter's tone had shifted, no longer nervous, now carrying the iron certainty of someone stating simple facts. She's one of the highest-ranking officers in the Army. This gift card he thought was practical? It represents access to a facility that most generals can't get into without authorization. She gave your father something that money literally cannot buy. He set the leather folder down in front of my father with a gentleness that somehow made the gesture more damning. I apologize for the interruption, sir. I just thought you should know what you were holding. He stepped back, executed a perfect about-face, and walked away with the bearing of a soldier who just dropped a grenade and wanted to be clear of the blast radius. The silence held for 3 heartbeats. Then everyone turned to look at me. I met my father's eyes across the table and saw something I'd never seen before. Complete, unvarnished shock. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. You command Fort Bragg? Yes. The whole base? The whole installation? Yes. Nicole's phone was already out, fingers moving frantically across the screen. Oh my God, Dad, she's not kidding. There's articles, photos. Colonel Shayna Ditt assumes. Command of Fort Bragg. This is from 18 months ago. She turned the phone to show the table. There I was in my dress blues, standing at attention while a 3-star general passed me the installation colors. The ceremonial transfer of command. Preston was staring at the photo like it was written in a foreign language. That's a real thing. You really command an entire Army base. I really do. Gregory had gone very pale. When you said you did administrative work, I do administrative work. I administer an installation of 52,000 soldiers and civilians. I manage a budget of several $billion. I coordinate training operations for multiple Army divisions. I brief members of Congress and the Secretary of the Army. That's all administrative work, technically. Why didn't you tell us? My father's voice had dropped to barely a whisper. I looked at him, at the watch on his wrist, at the golf membership packet on the table, at 20 years of assumptions and dismissals and casual condescension. I said quietly, when I made Lieutenant Colonel, when I took command of my 1st Battalion. Every time you'd nod and change the subject to Gregory's latest deal or Nicole's partnership track. So I stopped trying. I let you think what you wanted to think because it was easier than fighting for recognition. I didn't actually need. Nicole was scrolling through articles, her face growing paler with each headline. Fort Bragg commander leads response to hurricane. Relief efforts. Colonel Ditt testifies before Senate Armed Services Committee. Jesus Christ, Shayna. You testified before the Senate last year on readiness issues. The Senate, Gregory repeated, his voice hollow. You testified before the United States Senate. It's part of the job. My father was staring at the gift card like it had transformed into something radioactive. Lifetime access to the Officers Club. For you and your immediate family. I thought you might enjoy it. The club has excellent facilities, and the private dining rooms overlook the parade grounds. On ceremony days, you can watch from climate-controlled comfort while I review the troops. The words landed like artillery rounds. Preston cleared his throat. Reviewing troops. That's what generals do. Colonels do it too. I have 52,000 people under my command. Someone has to review them around the table. Relatives who'd spent the morning congratulating Gregory on his golf membership, and Nicole on her expensive watch were very carefully not making eye contact with anyone. The waiter returned, I noticed. The nameplate now, Sergeant Martinez with fresh coffee, his face professionally neutral, but his eyes finding mine for just a second. A flash of acknowledgement between service members. Will there be anything else? He asked. No, thank you, Sergeant. I used his rank deliberately, watched my family's reaction to the word. Or find out very good, ma'am. He executed another perfect about-face and withdrew. My father was still staring at the gift card. His new watch suddenly looked very small on his wrist. The golf membership packet sat abandoned on the table, impressive and somehow diminished by proximity to the cream leather folder with its embossed seal. Why that waiter? Nicole asked suddenly. How did he know what it was? Sergeant Martinez served under me at my previous posting. I didn't know he was working here, but I'm not surprised. He recognized the officer's club seal. Any service member would. You planned this. Gregory's voice carried an edge of something that might have been anger or might have been hurt. You knew exactly what would happen. You gave Dad that gift card knowing he'd dismiss it, knowing someone would recognize it. I met his eyes across the table. I gave Dad a gift that represents something I'm proud of, something that shows what I've accomplished. If he dismissed it, that's on him, not on me. The truth of it hung in the air like smoke. My father set down his coffee cup with a hand that trembled slightly. 18 months. You've commanded Fort Bragg for 18 months, and you never told. U.S., would you have listened if I tried? The question had no good answer, and we all knew it. Nicole was still scrolling through her phone, reading aloud in a voice that got progressively smaller. Colonel Dick coordinated joint training exercises with NATO allies. Fort Bragg commander implements new readiness protocols. Oh God, Shayna. You've been doing this the whole time. The whole time we thought you were just a lifer who couldn't hack it in the real world, I offered. Just someone who needed the structure of the military because she couldn't succeed anywhere else. Just steady, reliable Shayna. Good at following orders, but not important enough to ask about. Nicole's phone slipped from her fingers, clattered on the table. My father had his head in his hands now, the new watch visible on his wrist, expensive and suddenly meaningless. I'm sorry, he whispered. God, Shayna, I'm so sorry. I looked at him, at the man who'd raised me, who'd loved me in his way, who'd never quite seen me, and felt something in my chest loosen. I know, I said. I know you are. Gregory was doing mental calculations. I could see it in his face, putting together pieces he'd ignored for years. Your salary, as a colonel commanding Fort Bragg, your salary is higher than yours, I said flatly. Base pay plus housing allowance plus command stipend plus various other benefits. I'm doing just fine financially, Gregory. I've been doing fine for years. He slumped back in his chair like he'd been punched. The brunch was over effectively. Oh, people made attempts at conversation, forced pleasantries about how impressive it all was, how they'd always known I was capable of great things, how proud everyone was. But the foundation had cracked, and no amount of social plastering could repair it. I stayed for another 20 minutes out of courtesy, answered the sudden flood of questions about my career, showed them photos on my phone of change of command, ceremonies and dignitary visits, and the daily reality of running one of the largest military installations in the world. Then I made my excuses, kissed my father's cheek, and left in the parking lot. Sergeant Martinez was waiting by his beat-up Honda, still in his waiter's uniform, smoking a cigarette he'd probably been craving since his shift started. May single quotes am. He straightened as I approached. I hope I didn't overstep. You did exactly what I hoped someone would do, Sergeant. Thank you, he grinned. The kind of knowing smile one service member gives another when they've pulled off a successful operation. Couldn't let them disrespect you like that, Colonel. Well, not in front of me. How long have you been working here? 6 months. Pays better than base, and I'm going to school at night. UNC Chapel Hill. Business degree. Good man. You need a reference letter for anything, you let me know. Thank you, ma'am. That means a lot. I drove back to Fort Bragg with the windows down, letting the warm North Carolina air wash over me. My phone buzzed repeatedly with text messages from Nicole, from Gregory, even one from my father, but I didn't look at them. They could wait. They'd waited 20 years to see me clearly. They could wait a few more hours while I processed what had just happened. The gift card had cost me nothing, but what it had bought was priceless. Not their respect, though that might come eventually. Not their understanding, though perhaps that would follow. What it had bought was the end of invisibility, the shattering of assumptions, the recognition that I had been someone worth seeing all along. Tomorrow I would return their calls. Tomorrow I would begin the complicated work of rebuilding relationships with people who had finally seen me for who I actually was. But today I would drive back to my base, to my command, to the 52,000 people who had never doubted exactly who Colonel Shayna Ditt was and what she was capable of. And that, I thought as Fort Bragg's gates came into view, was more than enough.